This is an Elektronika EM-26 vocoder from the USSR. Here is a Juno-106 as carrier and a TR-808 as modulation. Not bad. All right. It also has an internal carrier, which is just a basic string synthesizer. Let's hear what that sounds like. Not bad. Okay, from here on, I'm going to turn off the effects, make it less fancy. Here's what it sounds like without effects. So a reverb and delay goes a super long way with this thing. But let's go over the panels, panel controls, and the connections on the back, and I'll get you familiar with how to operate one of these things. The information's not very widespread. So let's start with the carrier. You can turn the carrier on and off independently by turning this on, and you have the amplitude of the carrier itself by this. Very basic string synth, but you can dress it up a little bit. This is octave. You can mix an octave up into the signal like this. Still pretty basic. This is a release. You can add some release to it. So now we're getting somewhere. But it doesn't really matter if this sounds awesome or not, because it's the vocoding that really matters. The carrier in most vocoder sources is supposed to be really tinny and basic, and that's what you get here. It serves its purpose. So, all right, you got amplitude, you got your octave, you got your release. Right here, you also have an octave up. So let's turn this up, show you what it's like. There you go, very basic. Just one octave up. There's no octave down. This is just an octave bump. You have a fine-tune. How fine is that? You also have this weird pitch bend effectiveness knob that works like this. So as you turn it up, it transposes the keyboard. If you're not going to use the pitch bend, you could use that as kind of like a chorus tune. But if you are going to use it for the pitch bend, it gets a little weird. Say you want to play in this key. Key of C. Well, C-ish. Depending on how it's tuned, right? It's C on the keyboard. If you change the amount here, it totally transposes it, even though you're trying to adjust the pitch bend. Like this. So that's about a whole step. Maybe not. So you can kind of see how it's a little weird. You're going to have to play in a different key if you're messing with that with the intent of changing this. Also, this is kind of sloppy. The tolerances on it aren't very good, so it has a problem finding center. It's pretty pronounced when you turn this guy up. If you want to get crafty, you can take it apart, slip some little pieces of printer paper in between the shaft and the bender and tighten that up a bit. I've done that with other synthesizers with really great success, to the point where you can't even really tell. So that's something to think of if you are going to get one of these and perform on it with the bender. This is definitely something you should know. So we got Octave, Fine-Tune. This is that weird thing. This is volume. And this is volume of the entire synth, including the vocoder, the carrier, whatever you have selected up here. I've messed with these guys. This is the modulation source. This is the carrier source. The Juno and the TR-808 are still going, so we have that. Since there is an internal carrier, when you do want to use it, you don't need to turn this up. If you don't have anything plugged in, it won't do anything, but the instincts, my instincts say to not turn it up if there isn't a source, just to reduce noise. Anyway, if you turn this up on its own, you can play with the internal carrier. Yeah, great. So this right here is the modulation section. It works like this. First, turn the modulation up a bit so you get a signal. And this is the dry gain, just of the modulation itself. Sounds pretty hot, huh? I'm actually running the TR-808 into the microphone input for this very reason. Let me show you. You'll hear it come through here clean. But if I run it through the vocoder, it's a lot less interesting. Sounds better with microphone. I kind of feel like I'm cheating the decay on the VCAs inside of the vocoder with that super hot gain. It's almost like it's overdriven and it takes longer to fall just because it's so hot. But I mean, it makes it sound better as a vocoder, so I personally like it. But let's plug this into the line input just for now while we go over this panel. This right here is a chorus. So if we turn this up to hear the modulation and turn one of these on, you'll hear the chorus. And this button right here is a faster chorus. Think of it kind of like chorus 2 on the Junos. And this switch only affects the chorus, so if you have the chorus off, this does nothing. So that covers this section. Next up, this is the vibrato section with accent, amount of vibrato, and rate of vibrato. But the interesting part about this section is it works to the gate of the modulation. So as the modulation comes in, this light turns on to show you that there's signal. And it triggers this guy here. Let me put this back on microphone because it sounds nice. And I'll show you what I mean with the internal carrier only. If you use an external carrier, these bits won't affect the sound coming in. This is only for the internal carrier because you have more control over it itself when it's all hooked up internally. It's built for it. So let's turn this on, and I'm going to turn up the the accent. You can kind of hear how it's got that pitch shift as the modulation comes in. It triggers the gate. Notice that this only happens with that gate. So if I turn on the carrier and listen to it by itself, it doesn't do anything. But if I turn up the modulation, you can absolutely tell what it's doing. When you turn this off, it just sounds better. It's an interesting effect. What's kind of fun about this is the EMS-2000 vocoder and possibly other EMS vocoders actually have this kind of frequency sort of accent effect on it. So I kind of wonder if the Russians copied that design in a certain sense. It was not unlike them to copy designs of Moog and the Rolands and stuff of the world. But anyway, so that's the accent. This is a vibrato, which is also triggered by the gate. So it sounds like this. With this being amount and this being rate. And that about covers it. As far as the panel is concerned, let's go back here. These are the inputs and outputs. This is the mic input that I've been connecting the TR-808 into. This is the line input here, which you can connect the TR-808 into, or something else as a modulation. Normally you would plug a microphone into the mic. It's a lot hotter because it drives a microphone. You can have the effects, of the vibrato section. It'd be more useful. This is a carrier input. This is only necessary if you plan on using an external carrier input. That internal string synthesizer is a supplement or a replacement to that. You can actually play both if you wanted to. It works in conjunction. This is a headphone output. This is for a line output, which is going into my DAW through an interface. And I believe this is for a pedal, if you want to hook up a pedal to it. This is for ground, because the connection to here is ungrounded. If you want to reduce, say you have a ground loop or some hum or something, same thing, then connecting this to the ground of whatever other equipment you're using can reduce that. This is a power switch, and this is the 220 volt, 50 hertz power input. 60 hertz works well too. There's a transformer inside that goes into DC, etc., just like a lot of synthesizers like these. So 60 hertz won't hurt it, and 240 volts in the light won't hurt it as well. I'm in the US. I use a step-up transformer to bring it up to about 220, 240 volts. That's what you're hearing it with now, and it works just great. Yeah, so all right. Let me show you one more demo with the Juno-106, and we'll call it a wrap. All right, thanks all for watching, guys. Until next time.